Welcome everyone to Your Our Unity, a show that wishes to spread a spirit of peace and love in the world, one conversation at a time.
None of that affects how you are going to change the world.
That's right.
No, it does not take one person to change the world, but it takes one person to believe in themselves.
Yes.
That they can make a difference.
I love
to
that.
Inspire others.
And that's why, for me, I try to make it my purpose now to try to help other people realize their self-worth.
Yeah.
Because it's so sad that so many of us, we get destroyed based off of what other people have to say.
Yeah.
I would say do it in your own way. Make sure you're doing it on your own accord and take a risk.
Go out there and live your life passionately. Believe in everything that you're doing and believe in the fact that you will accomplish every single goal. Welcome everyone to Your Our Unity, a show that wishes to spread a spirit of peace and love in the world, one conversation at a time. We want to encourage you to restore hope. Restore hope in your life, in your dreams, in your family, in your health. Restore hope in the belief that everything that you wish and desire and dream of, you will receive and accomplish. I am your host, LaShawn Walker. I'd like to welcome you in. Please like, share, and follow. Let everyone know that we're on right now. Well, hello, my beautiful people. Happy October. Oh my God, it's October already. Can you believe it? We just came out of a beautiful summer. The breeze was getting nice and cool, and now we're putting up Christmas decorations and Halloween decorations. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I kind of wanted to slow down a little bit, but we are in October. So I hope that everyone out there is doing well. We have been experiencing and receiving some challenging news the last couple of days. There's been weather occurrences that have devastated so many states and the wars across the world. So I hope that everyone out there is safe and doing well, staying prayed up. I hope that you're doing your best to just exist in all that is going on right now. I just want to share with you that I've been on a reflection tour for the past couple of weeks. As you know, during the few shows that I've had in the month of September, I had been experiencing a lot. And it kind of weighed me down, made me feel a little heavy. And, I needed to be recharged and restored. So I want to share with you what I had to do in order to make sure that I was doing well, that I was maintaining that joy and that happiness and that ray of sunshine that I love to shine on you guys every single week. And so I want to share with you what I did this past weekend. So this week in Unity in the Community. Oh my God, I was recharged at the Restored Life Soul Care one-day retreat, and it was awesome. I was on my way to just find a different path for my feelings, and a bunch of women just all came together and shared their truth, shared their pains, shared their tribulations and their trials, shared what was going on in their heart, as well as all of the happiness and joy and peace that they're also experiencing at this time. It was an amazing event, and it was hosted by Dr. Reverend K.C. Jones. There she is, my beautiful friend. She brought together these beautiful women so that we can share in what we were going through, not only mentally and physically, but emotionally. She also tasked us all with bringing ingredients. I didn't understand when I got the email that I should bring baking powder. I was like, what's she doing? We're creating like paper mache? Like, I had no clue. But what she wanted us to do was she wanted us to bake a cake together. Each one was tasked with bringing their own ingredient, and we all came together. And you guys know I don't cook, so this was challenging for me from the get-go. But we all came together, we put in our ingredients, and we made this delicious cake. And it was amazing. It was symbolic. It was thought-provoking because we all were trying to figure out, like, are we putting in just the right amount of ingredients from what we bought? Is it going to make the cake too salty, too sweet? We all were questioning that, but we all came together and we worked together to make sure that we had a beautiful finished product. And then while that cake was baking, and I'm sure you saw it go into the oven, we all sat around and we tried discussing what we actually offered to the world. The question was, what is your ingredient? What do you offer others, your family, yourself, society? Everyone had a different, word they used, and everyone shared what they thought they actually are to others. Mine was love, peace, unity, compassion. Those are the things that I stand for. Those are the things that I want to give the world every single day. But sometimes it gets hard. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. Sometimes it is a weight for me to maintain that uplifting attitude, that encouragement when I'm going through things. So it was beautiful for me to be in the midst of those amazing women who offered such great advice and honestly just loved on me in that moment. Especially with what all I've been going through the last couple of weeks, I really needed to know that there was people out there that were willing to listen, because I'm usually the person people come to when they want me to listen to them. So it was a beautiful, beautiful time with these amazing, powerful women. And then after that, after we decided that we weren't sharing anymore, we decided to go to a beautiful winery for the sites, not just necessarily for the wine, but for the sites, and for us to commune together, for us to speak about what we just experienced. And we were able to cut loose those things that was holding us down and holding us back from whatever we wish to accomplish in our life, whatever feelings we wish to overcome in our life. Reverend Casey, Dr. Casey Jones, brought this long rope to the winery. We were sitting at the table with that delicious cake, and it was delicious. And we all created a knot. Some people had 2 or 3 knots, but we created a knot, and then we got a pair of scissors, and we had to cut that knot. And that knot was to represent anything that was holding us down, anything that wasn't bringing joy to our life, anything that was hindering us from being the people that God created us to be. It was therapeutic. It was cathartic. More so, it was a weight lifted off of my heart. I left there restored, I left there renewed, and I left there ready to embark on this journey that I know God has me on without feeling the weight of the world on me every single day. So I will be sharing more information about the Soul Care Retreat, because she will be hosting these events quite regularly, and I'm so glad that I was one of the first people to attend. We all need, at some time, soul care. We really do. We cannot be Superman and Superwoman every single day. We can't battle through life thinking that we can handle the different things that we are challenged with within this world without feeling the weight of it sometimes and needing to release it. And that's exactly what this weekend provided me, the opportunity to release everything that I had going on inside, bundling up because I didn't want to share it with anyone, because I'm the one that's supposed to be the sunshine in one's day. So it was amazing. I just had to share that with you. And, about restoration. We all need to be restored. As I mentioned in the beginning, it's about having hope and being restored in that hope. For you to believe that anything that you put your mind to and whatever you seek in this world, you can have it if you put in the work, but more so you pray and you believe in those efforts, and that God is going to at least bless you with what you've hoped for, if not more. So today, we're going to be speaking to another amazing woman who is restoring hope in parents and children and parents in her community and beyond, to make sure that they're living the healthy, happy life that God created them to have. So the title of the show is Restored Hope, Empowering Parents, Advocating for Our Children. And we'll be speaking to the beautiful Melanie Baker. She's Jamaican-born, immigrated to the U.S. over 30 years ago, with a passion for positively impacting marginalized communities and supporting families affected by poverty, disparity, violence, and trauma. With over 3 decades of experience in education, she has served in numerous roles, including special education teacher, parent trainer, and curriculum development specialist. Melanie's commitment to creating healing spaces has proven vital in helping vulnerable students survive and thrive amidst trauma. As the founder of Project R.E.S.E.T.S, Restoring Expectations Through Socio-Emotional Trauma Survival, Melanie provides resilience training for families impacted by various forms of trauma, whether from violence, disability, or socioeconomic challenges. Her mission is to offer a path towards safety and success for students, empowering families with tools to break generational cycles of harm and rewrite their stories with hope and high expectations. Celebrated as an equity champion, Melanie's work is promoting inclusion, particularly in immigrant communities. It has transformed lives. Her personal journey as a mother of 3 sons, including a neurodivergent child, further fuels her passion for fostering resilience, safety, and success for all students and their families. Through her leadership at Project R.E.S.E.T.S, Melanie continues to inspire change and offer hope to families navigating difficult circumstances. So please help me welcome the beautiful Melanie Baker. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you for having me, LaShawn. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very
So
excited to be here.
I'm so happy that you were able to make it, especially to talk about this important topic. I know you have so much going on, so I wanted everyone to know exactly what you're doing and how you're improving the lives of children and parents. So thank you so much for being here.
Excited to be here. You're welcome.
Well, I usually begin my show by asking, I'm kind of nosy, a little about your background, where you grew up, what you aspired to be when you were a child. So tell us a little about your upbringing.
I grew up in Jamaica, and I loved, I loved growing up on the island, surrounded by the beach. My favorite, still one of my favorite places to be. I still one of the reasons I love Long Island.
Nice.
I went to Catholic school, all girls school.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So did I. Not Catholic, but an all-girls school.
My parents did their very best. Working class family. We did have some difficulties, some struggles, some trauma, and my experience in my school, where they aim to create that safety and that escape, laid the foundation for, I think, the work that I'm doing now.
Wow.
And my sisters, I'm one of 6 girls.
Oh, wow.
No
no
brothers.
No boys?
No brothers.
Wow.
And then all additional couple other girl cousins.
Okay.
So we all grew up very close knit, and we became like our own safe space for each other. And so that really fuels a lot of the work that I would do in my adulthood.
Oh, that is beautiful. And I know you miss the island. Do you get back often?
Not as often as I would like, but I do different outreach efforts there virtually. But I am planning to definitely go more often.
Yes, you do. You need to get back. Let me tell you something. I love Long Island too, and again, it has the word island in it, but there's nothing like the island of Jamaica, my friend. So that is beautiful.
True.
I'm so glad that you had that support system. You have women, and I'm sure strong women in your family that help kind of guide you, to the person that you are today. So let's speak a little about that. I mean, I read your bio, and you do a lot of work for the community, specifically for, young children and parents who have experienced trauma. How did you get involved in that sort of work?
I realized when I first started teaching in the city, I had a very immigrant community. I started teaching in Brooklyn, where I lived with my mom at the time.
Okay.
And I had one particular student who struggled with selective mutism.
Oh.
And it was my first experience with that kind of impact of trauma.
Right.
And by the time she came to my class, I was a 4th grade teacher. She had been in the school several years, and no one knew her voice.
Wow.
And I carried out, that kind of a nurturing classroom environment where we would do drama, skits, plays, we'd read, we just really that safe space.
Right.
And so at the end of the year, she just, we went on trips, and she just started to like she just had so much to say, and it really was miraculous.
That is
And-
miraculous.
and that really opened my eyes to see just how by creating safe spaces around students, it will really help to break them out of the trauma. And when I had the parent teacher meeting with her family, her mom confided that they were a family that had been impacted by domestic violence.
I see. Oh my
And
goodness.
so that led to her, showing the trauma that we saw,
Right.
but having that space to be able to talk through what she was going through, and be happy, like our classroom was a happy place,
Right.
a place of learning,
Yes.
and high expectations. It
love
opened
that.
her up.
That is amazing. A child who was not speaking for, you said, almost 4 years?
4 years, yes.
4 years.
Yes.
So what exactly, other than, because I know you went on trips and things like that, did you have any personal conversations with her? Did you?
In our classroom, and that's a part of the focus of what I do, that learning itself becomes this engaging,
Yes.
safe place. So we would have, dress up, like we did, like, ladies' tea, where I brought out all my hats, and all the girls got to dress up in hats, and just these different ways to make the classroom engaging and learning. And so because it became a safe space, then it helped her to trust.
Yes.
And so she then went on to find her voice.
I love
and
that.
then that's when we found out about
What
what
was
was going on in her home.
I see what you're saying. So I could imagine, I mean, in the work that you do, that you've come across quite a few students, not necessarily with that same ailment, but some different types of ways that they're not presenting their best, or they're not coming out of their shell. So tell me a little about that. What other experiences have you had, and how have you helped sort of, get them to break out of it?
So interestingly enough, in addition to my personal experience as a mom of a son with special needs, my oldest son was born extremely preterm, weighing 1 pound 5 ounces. He was born at
wow.
23 weeks. I didn't even make it to 6 months pregnant. He was given a less than 50% chance of survival.
Oh my God.
And I had to, again, extend that same kind of out-of-the-box creative thinking, really looking at him and creating that safe space, my husband and myself, or faith community, and he's doing so amazingly well now.
Thank God.
So it doesn't matter what the challenges are. Once you meet students where they are and create that safe space, they will thrive.
I love that.
One of the greatest miracles I believe I experienced, and I consider it miracles, when students are able to find themselves,
Yes.
through the trauma.
Yes.
I taught at the Girls Detention Center, Brentwood Residential Center, several years ago, and the summers were a particularly difficult time for students who are incarcerated, because they know all their peers at that time
Right.
are out enjoying the summer and they're locked in. And so I was tasked as interim education coordinator for the summer program, and so I created a drama-based intervention for the students for that summer, and it was so effective as the students created ways to tell their story through the dramatic arts,
Right.
the creative arts. Just we did vision boards, just all of these ways that they could express themselves.
I love
and
that.
we got state recognition in terms of other facilities around the state for having the lowest. We actually had no violent incidences that summer, which was extremely a rare occurrence.
I love that.
Students, once you give them that safe space, they're able to see their way through
Yeah.
the trauma and the pain and the hurt and the challenges.
Yes, no, I totally get that, and I'm sure with your journey, and you mentioned also your family history of trauma, that you were able to identify it quickly in children. So tell me a little about you growing up and what you saw versus what you're now offering.
So when I grew up, as I said, I went to an all-girls Catholic school, and so we went on retreats, and we loved to write, and we'd create stories. And so all these opportunities, my cousins and sisters and I, we do neighborhood talent shows.
Oh.
So like there were ways that we were carving out safe spaces in the midst of the trauma that we had no control over, but to create spaces that we could control. And so that's I believe that's a key to helping children get through the difficulties. And so through my experience, through seeing what we did as children, it gave me clues and hints to be able to build the programs that I do now.
I love that. I love that. Well, we mentioned earlier you work with children and families for over 3 decades.
Yes.
So what really inspired you to now dedicate your life to empowering parents and advocating for children?
I think when I saw, as I said, the miracles, but what really inspired me is seeing, even with my own sons, just how they came into their own sense of self and the children that I work with, and understanding the role that parents play in making that, making that transition for students. And so giving parents the tools to be able to put those things in place. And not only parents, but other educators and other adults who support, families, because it makes all the difference, And so I could see it from my experience. I saw it in my classroom, even the family that I spoke about with the selective mutism, the mom shared that it took her a very long time to leave that violent situation that she was in, and the trauma that was inflicted on her daughter. But it took, because it sometimes takes a while to be able to walk away. And so that if parents can be given the skills to do what's in the best interest of the family, how everyone prospers. And so that really motivates me to do this work.
I love that because, growing up, I can remember, a few students who just didn't seem happy, when they were just coming to school just to come to school. They didn't want to form any real, true friendships with people. They were, quite, solitude into themselves a lot of the time. And, the parents sort of just, well, that's the way they are. So what kind of tools and resources are you offering parents so that they can also help you, break through to their child?
So there are so many programs and resources that are available. And the very first step is breaking through the stigma.
Yes.
Breaking through the shame, breaking through, the sense of the fear of faces, of being judged, of being condemned, and really being able to speak your truth so that you can tap into what's available. Because there is so much that's out there. I recently worked with Parent to Parent New York State, and we did a program called Mind the Gap, which was through the University of Rochester, and we connected families with trained peer navigators who really, that peer mentorship, and which is what Parent to Parent is all about, that sense of parents helping parents. And even through my local church, Lifeline Restoration Ministries International, we use the power of God through prayer. And so we have a prayer line every morning at 6 a.m. where we pray for whatever your prayer request, whatever it is, just knowing that there's someone there to pray you through, to bear, to uphold you. And so really tapping into, the local resources. You have the retreats, which is a wonderful program where they offer free counseling services for those with domestic violence. Your doctor's office will also give you connections to different resources, therapists. I'm a part of a mentorship group, Dr. Laquetta Solomon's Elevated Visionaries, and there she really focuses on post-trauma growth and how we can take the things that we have gone through and how we learn from them and grow from them. And something my pastor, Dr. Joan Sims, will often say, it's not in spite of what I've been through, but because of. How do you turn the pain of what you've suffered to be propelled into your purpose.
Yes.
And so really tapping into those who've been there and who've overcome. And
Right.
so in this mentorship relationship.
Right.
So the tools are there. They're all around.
I love
It's
it.
just for us to reach out and tap
utilize
in.
them. Exactly. How receptive are parents to this information? Because it's not just sometimes the stigma behind it, but it's the time. It's their own lack of knowledge and education, and thinking that because of generation, prior to them, that this is normal. So how do you make it more receptive?
So that has been the challenge, really, breaking through, because especially families that are, marginalized, you have so much that's almost on top of you.
Yeah.
It's like, where do you begin?
Yeah.
Where do you begin? But what I have found that's been really effective is once parents hear, like that they're not alone, that someone else has walked through that path, that someone else made it, that someone else has come through on the other side, it helps them to know that they can do it too, because that's what really feeds the fear,
Right,
that
right.
sense of being alone,
Yes.
of being isolated. But once they hear, oh, she made it through, I can make it through too. There was an initiative I spearheaded at Parent to Parent, or BIPOC, Black Indigenous Parents of Color, learning series and parent group.
wow.
And we would meet once a month and we would discuss a particular theme, and we'd have guest speakers and parents would share. And it provided an opportunity for parents of color to know that, what, oh, there are other parents out here who look like me,
Yes.
who are going through this, get information, ask questions in a safe space, the same safe space that their children need.
Yes.
And so that they could, it opened them
Open
up.
up.
And so they would share how appreciative they were for that space.
I love that. How important, especially in this day and time, is it for us as parents to be advocates for our children?
We are their voice.
Yeah.
We are their first voice. And this is why I believe the role of parent education is so critical. Because if we are not able to speak up for children, we are hindering them from coming into the fullness of what's available to them.
Right.
And that's why it's so important for parents to have that space
Right.
where they can work through their own concerns, their own fears. I think about even with my first son when he was, he came home from the hospital. We had 3 or 4 different machines,
Oh, wow.
oxygen, apnea. He was still
Yes,
small.
very
He was
preemie,
sickly.
yeah.
It was very challenging. I didn't know what to expect. I was scared.
Yeah.
I was overwhelmed.
Right.
But I had to work through those emotions. And I think of the role of, organizations like Parent to Parent that helped me to know, okay, there are other parents who have gone through this, who are going through this, that I could get through this.
Right.
I think of the role of my home church, like my pastors, we have, women's support group, women's fellowship. And so things like that help me to walk through. And now I'm on the other side. Now he's 20 years old. He's doing so well. He's a singer. He's a basketball player.
love it.
But we don't know the end from the beginning. We're not
Yes.
God.
Yes.
But by being surrounded by community,
Yes.
by community, it
Yes.
strengthens us to be able to push forward.
No, I totally agree with that. I have a friend who had her baby quite early as well. I think it was 23 or 26 weeks, and born very, very premature, had a lot of health struggles, and he's an amazing young man now. And yet the doctors, didn't have a great report at that time, and putting more fear into her than hope. And it is what you put into your child. It is advocating for those services, because she
Yes.
received so many amazing
Yes.
services that can provide him with the therapy that he needed and the growth that he needed.
And so this is why advocacy is so key,
Important, yeah.
because all these services are there to help.
Yeah.
But if you're so steeped in fear,
Yeah.
where you're not able to tap in because you're stuck in your own, like your own paralysis of fear, then you are shortchanging your child from everything that they could get.
Yes.
So my son now, as I said, he's 20 years old. He has what is called self-direction through the Office of People with Developmental Disabilities.
Okay.
So they provide financial resources for him to do all these wonderful programs. He goes horseback riding. He works out with a trainer. He has a voice coach. And so we're, planning this exciting opportunities for him. We have a wonderful team also through our school district, Brentwood Union Free School District, where they have just been so gracious throughout his entire school career with just giving him what he needs.
Yes.
But I had to also be at the table as, an equal, stakeholder.
Yes.
I had to engage
Yes.
and be willing to take advantage of the resources and the tools that are there so that he could be successful, the way he is now.
Yeah.
If I had allowed the fear to stop me, he would be missing out on just all these wonderful opportunities.
Yes.
And our family is so much richer and enriched, through it.
I know, I could imagine, and it sounds like it. I saw pictures of him. I don't know if we have a picture of him. I think we have one, Bobby, if you could put that up. I think I labeled it son. But yes, from what you're telling me in the story on how his birth began, it's beautiful to know that he's grown into this amazing young man. It really is. So for that fear that parents have, because we often have, it's really that fear that we're not going to be heard, that no one's going to not just listen but understand what we're going through. What is step one? What did you do as step one for you to break out of that fear?
Step one, really, I'm a person of faith. My faith is very important to me. My husband and I, we knew that we wanted so much more for our children, and we knew it began with God.
Yeah.
And so really, maybe you're a single parent family. My mom is a great resource as well. She came and, moved in with us to help, with the boys. My father-in-law and mother-in-law. So, we had a whole village around us. And step one, I would say, is really, it sounds cliche, but counting the blessings, like seeing what are the assets, what is it that you have.
Right.
It sometimes you're so caught up with all the things you don't have, you miss out what you have.
Right.
And then you look back and you're able to see, oh wait, this, all of this is here to pour into us.
Yes.
Our church, so much of what my son would go on to accomplish, we call it generalizing. So it's like where he takes a skill and he accomplishes it in many different arenas.
Right.
But he practiced it first at church. Like he loves to worship. So he loves our praise and worship church.
Which is where his
at
singing
church.
came
Yes,
from. Oh
exactly.
my God, I love it.
And so, our youth department, the Pulse Youth Department at our church, they would organize different trips and so on. And so he would have that socialization aspect. There are all these wonderful resources in the community too. Nassau Suffolk Autism Society of America.
Nice.
They would organize different events. So there are all these resources that are out there that are, but you have to reach out to ask.
Yes.
Sometimes just talking to another parent, and you, it's like when you're like in the trenches together, it's kind of like the formalities fall away.
Yes.
And so like, once you're like, oh, you have a child with challenges, oh, let me
Yes,
tell you. Let me tell
I've
you. Let me
experienced
tell
the
you.
same,
Yeah,
exactly.
so everyone kind
I
of
get
rallies
it.
around you. So there are these amazing resources that are out there. Your family, my sister, Kimon, she was just with us, and she introduced my son to his love of reggae music. Sharing her love of music, with him since he was very young, and so but you have to connect, you have to plug in. The shame makes you want to isolate. You don't want anybody to know what's going on. You want to hide.
Yes.
come out from with the hiding, come out
Yes.
of from the shame, come out from the stigma, and reach out, connect, plug in.
I love that because it's true. Your voice matters and you won't be heard and you can't help your child if you don't speak up and if you don't advocate for them or even if you just get past that fear yourself because it's personal fear upon themselves but also for their child, not knowing what's going to be on the other side. So I love that. It's basically what I'm hearing is exposing yourself to others who've experienced or have seen what you're going through. That is key.
That's the heart of it.
Yeah.
That's the heart of it. And one of the things that, we don't realize is that nobody's life is perfect.
You're right about that, sister.
There's
You
no
are right
cookie
about that.
cutter.
That's right.
There's no,
We wish it was though, but it's not. It's not. Yeah.
we but that's life.
Yeah.
That's life.
Yeah.
And as the word of God tells us that we overcome by the word of our testimony and the blood of the Lamb.
Yes.
And as we're sharing our stories, as we are encouraging each other, then we realize, oh, wait a second, this person can overcome that. This person can do it. I can do it too. It can work out for me too.
I love that. I love that. And I think that is important, which is, primarily why I have this show as well and invite people like you on and everyone who has a story to tell is so that people can relate and see that there's others out there just like them who have overcome some really true challenging problems and tribulations, but they've come out on the other side. They've sought those resources. They've, found a community of people that are willing to uplift them and empower them. So I'm so glad that you're out there doing the work. So let me ask you, you founded Project R.E.S.E.T.S to help families affected by trauma.
Yes.
Can you explain how this initiative, this one particular initiative, supports and empowers our youth and our parents?
So the heart of Project R.E.S.E.T.S, I say it's like marrying tutoring with mentoring.
Okay.
You think about like a coach.
Yes.
With the sport and like really cheering you on, and taking that and combining it with academic enrichment.
Oh, wow.
And so we I partner with other small, like-minded visionaries, I call them. Two of my closest friends, Shannon Knox and Dawn Lazarus. Shannon started the food outreach,
Okay.
Food for Your Soul International, and then Dawn, Girl
Yes, I remember,
Code,
yes.
right, launched this summer. And so we come together to create events for our students. So as they do their academics and we encourage them and we support them, communication skills, relevant reading. For example, I have a new student that was just assigned to me, and I assigned her the reading book, The Skin I'm In, because it talks about
Yes.
Shannon Flakes, about a young lady struggling through with her identity, with her skin complexion,
Right.
peer, and so relevant materials, celebratory events, coming together. So it's really like I say, it's a holistic approach. And then we also plan different outings.
Wow.
And so just all these, really creating, I would say, restoring that village.
Yes.
Restoring that village. And so that's a part of what makes the learning take on meaning and substance to our
Yes.
children. So, yes.
I love that. No, I love it. I love the name, the acronym. And I love that you said it's a holistic approach.
Yes.
Because sometimes, having these steps that were created from a book and trying to, apply them to one's real life sometimes is very, very hard. We need to try different avenues and different paths to sort of get through
Yes.
to people, know?
Yes.
So I love that. What have the parents been saying about being a part of this project?
So it has just meant so much. Like one of the most recent events that we had, it was our anti-bullying soiree. So we had one of the young women from our school community who faced cyberbullying, and she was just, it was just so devastating for her.
Wow.
And so we I coordinated an evening where we would all have dinner together, and the children share their talent, and just this the same,
Yes.
peace and light and
Yes.
love. And so for the parents, it just means so much. And we got all the different ones, just putting positive remarks on her Instagram,
I love
putting gifts together. We had uh, Priscilla has a candy business, so she put together old-fashioned candy. We had like a publisher, just all these great, or church, Lifeline Research, and we put together a basket of other goodies. And so just really letting her realize, this young woman, and all the students and the families, that light does overpower darkness, that an
Yes.
act of kindness
Yes.
does stamp out, the mean-spiritedness that exists.
Yes.
And so for the parents, it meant so much, because, they also realize that, they're not alone,
Yeah.
because, those acts of violence,
Yes.
you feel so powerless.
Yes.
So just that whole, community, creating that community.
I love
And,
that.
I had another parent, she wept through our entire consultation, just over, the different challenges. But again, hearing that, you know what,
Yes.
here is a space, we're in this together, we're going to get through. That really builds the parents up, so that they can roll their sleeves up to continue.
Yes, no,
for
that
the
sounds like a
fight.
huge breakthrough, and especially in your community. And I mentioned before, I mean, the world at large right now, we're dealing with so much, and our poor children, I feel, are just falling deep within our own pain, that we have not chosen to face. And so what would you think as a whole, like in every community that's out there, how should we get these type of activities out there? How should we share what you're doing with others?
So interestingly enough, one of the ways that I created to really scale my efforts, it's a game. I call it Survive Through Expectations Thrive, like a game club where we're creating these fun activities, just the way how you have Girl Scouts and Boy
Yes.
Scouts, and the idea of creating a trauma-informed game space to really help, that can be incorporated into whatever program setting that's
Yes.
available. And so that's something that I most recently created in order to be able to scale these efforts.
Yes.
Because all the tools and resources are already there.
Right.
So it's just to be able to create like a path,
Right.
and that motivation to
Yes.
tap in.
Exactly, and I think it's very important, more important than ever right now. And we hold on to a lot of baggage, unfortunately, as parents, and we do want the best for our children. It's just sometimes we don't know how to get them there, So I think that if you could introduce that into every community and every program that they already have existing, that it would be beneficial. So speak to me real quick, because I know that you're passionate about a lot of different causes. Right now, what do you think is the most important cause that our parents and children are faced up against now?
I think it really boils down to hope. And that's why in the name of my organization, it talks about restoring expectations,
Yeah.
which is about hope.
Yes.
The fear that I felt when my son, in the beginning with the autism diagnosis and the bad reports, was this sense of what would his future be, and so the cause, it sounds very, may seem a little naive, but really this infusing hope into our efforts.
Yes.
Whether we're dealing with students who are struggling with gang violence, when I work with doing homeschooling and home instruction for my school district, I had a lot of the students who were in gangs.
Wow.
And no one could ever get them to do any work. But they would
imagine.
But they would work for me. They're
Yeah.
like, how is it that you work for me? Is that because of the respect and the
Yes.
dignity that I would extend to them, and I would talk with them and let them know, look, you can have a future.
Yeah.
You can have that expected end. You can. And and that hope. You know,
Yes.
so we coming out of the pandemic, we're in the middle of a mental health epidemic. You know,
Yes.
our children are struggling.
Yes.
You know, but if we can let them know about the hope, that there is that light at the end of the tunnel, that it does get better. You know, when I was a teenager, I had a lot of mental health struggles and challenges myself, and you know, it was the way that led me to faith.
Right.
And what I realized, you know, when in the most dark place, that I felt, and where I couldn't see the hope, I had no idea of this future
Right.
that I'm living now, this bright, expectant, hope-filled
Hopeful,
future.
yes.
And so, if for someone to be able to reach out, you know, like it's almost like me going back to my teenage self and saying, just hang in there,
Yes.
it gets better.
I love
And
it.
that's what our young people and our children need. You know,
Yes.
like, don't, you know, when we're masking and we're hiding our pain, we're silencing them as
Yes,
well.
yes.
We're silencing. I love when you said before, you know, like where they're drowning in our pain. You know, but if we can like take off the mask, that was the theme of our Girl Code
Yes.
event, Don Lazarus's launch earlier this summer. Take off our masks and allow ourselves to receive, you know, that inner healing.
Yes.
Then we're extending that grace forward to our children who are looking to us, and we're showing them the way out.
Yes, yes, I love that. And I love the fact that you said that you went back to that little girl, you know, and tried to envision how she would see this situation and how she would want to restore her hope in whatever that situation is. I think that for a lot of kids, they don't know what that looks like, but to have someone like you, and I'm sure a lot of other, you know, coaches and mental health professionals and psychologists and just people who are invested in making sure that our children are whole would definitely help them as well.
You know, and even for us as adults, you know, like knowing that we have that safe space
Yeah.
to talk through
Yeah.
the challenges. You know, one of the first, I would say, gifts that my pastor, Dr. Sims, gave to me, she said, I want you to spend some time with our church mom, Dr. Christine Spence, who's now 92 years
Oh,
old.
wow.
And I would sit with her and she would pour into me and she would encourage me and she would pray with me.
Yes.
And it paved a way for healing for me forward.
Wow.
And so this idea that this healing that's available with life, the power of life and death is in our tongues, you know, and so to tap into this healing that's available, you know, it's almost like we're climbing up out of this deep
Yes.
pit and precipice. And, you know, they're like those reaching down their hands towards us, and as
Grabbing
we are
onto
coming,
them.
we are bringing our children
Yes,
with us.
yes.
And so that's the power of hope. Like, it breaks that generation, because if I didn't, you know, break out, you know, through the darkness, then where would my children
Exactly.
be right
Yeah,
now?
I
You know,
love that description.
Where would my husband be right now?
Yes.
So, you know, especially as women, you know, take advantage of the community.
Yes.
Take advantage of those resources that are out there.
Yes.
You know, reach out, ask
Yes.
someone, you know, your medical doctor, your spiritual leader. You know, they will, you know, there's now the 988 crisis helpline for mental health, and they'll all have mental health resources for you. There's pastoral counseling, spiritual counseling, just all the different ways to
Yes.
really tap into, to be well, so that your children
I love that.
can be
You
well.
seek it. You have to seek it.
Yes.
You have to research, and you have to want and have the
Yes.
desire to
Yes.
actually to do it. You know,
Yes.
I love that. Well, let me ask you. You've been recognized for your commitment to equity and inclusion in immigrant communities.
Yeah.
Can you share some of the unique challenges these families face and how Project R.E.S.E.T.S addresses them?
So, you know, oftentimes when we think of immigrant communities, we think of only or bilingual communities, whether Spanish or French speaking.
Right.
But one of the things we don't realize is that even immigrants like from countries like myself, like Jamaica, where we speak English,
Right.
but there's still a culture shock,
Right.
because the challenges that we had, even in terms of our stigma and the way that we perceive things in Jamaica,
Right.
we bring them here.
Right.
So even though the resources are available, we're still carrying that with us.
Right.
And so through working with my sister, we were a part of an effort that would bring training and resources to Jamaica.
Oh, wow.
And so we would, I would do parent training and teacher training around special education with Jamaica. We went in person, also virtually, especially through the pandemic.
Okay.
Now, what happens is, because our community connects right here, so then our community here is like, it kind of creates this ripple effect.
Right.
And then the same thing spills over also into our other immigrant communities, knowing that, okay, like it's this bilateral,
Right.
going across
Borders,
Or-
yes,
right.
yes.
And so that helps to build that confidence and that safety
Right.
around the fact that, okay, you're not going to be judged. This is, we can, make it through these challenges together. I keep saying about really restoring that village.
Yeah.
Restoring that village.
I love that. And restoring that hope. I love that. All right. Well, how do you balance, real quick, being a mom of 3 and all that you're doing for these other children in your community and around the world?
Balance. Well.
I know that's hard, right? Yeah.
Always as women, we struggle with finding that, that balance. But something that I have learned is really trust God's pacing. There were times when, I wept over having to give up my full-time career when my oldest son really struggled.
Right.
And I had to really pour into his therapist and being present. And I was like, oh, will I ever have a career? Because he really needed me to be fully present then. But, now, new opportunities are coming my way.
Yes.
That's built on the
work that
I did with my son.
Yep.
And so, but I wouldn't know that then.
Right.
And so we can't beat ourselves up, because then that wears us out all the more.
Right.
A tool that my pastor shared with me, Dr. Sims, a lot has to do with being still.
Yeah.
Just really taking the time to just get still. We think of prayer and we're speaking to God, but a conversation is two-way.
Yes.
So when you're still, you're quiet and you're
Yes.
listening.
Yep.
Whether you're listening with worship music playing, you're listening, listening, putting the scripture on, but that stillness really helps you to find that sense of balance, because like we're constantly going all the time.
Thank you. Yes.
And I am a writer. I love journaling.
Wow.
I believe journaling is just one of the most cathartic, and it's evidence-based best practice.
Yes, it is.
And so really just writing out what's on your heart. The Bible tells us to write the vision and make it plain.
Amen.
Write out your prayers, write letters to God, write out what's on your heart, write out your, what you're feeling about a particular scripture, but just that getting it out.
Yes.
So those are definitely some ways that I love the beach.
I love that.
I love the
Well,
beach.
she said she's from Jamaica. She like the island, so I know you do. Oh, that's amazing. Well, you have been such a wonderful guest, and I love the time that we've shared. But it's almost time to go, and I could talk to you for another hour, girl. But share with me what is on your heart.
Well, the pressing burden on my heart has to do with really creating safety for our children.
Yes.
I just completed my fellowship at Stony Brook through the LEND program.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And I focused on how do we have those conversations around sexual safety for vulnerable students with disabilities. And it also applies for little children. And so there are resources out there that helps with that as well. So my school district, Brentwood, we are implementing Governor Hochul passed Aaron's Law,
Right.
which is about how do you teach that sexual safety even to little children. Like being able to pick up on when something isn't right. Tell,
Right.
don't keep secrets,
Right.
things like that. And so, those are some great resources that our school district has implemented. They're using what Florida, a program Florida uses in their state. But these resources are out there.
Yes.
And so that's really what's pressing on my heart, is to have families have access to these tools to be able to have those conversations as a family, to make sure to promote and maintain that safety.
I love that. I
So
love
I'm really, because when we think about student success, Maslow's hierarchy of
Yes,
needs,
yes.
safety is the
Is
foundation.
the foundation.
So
They do.
that's-
They have to feel safe within their own
Yes,
skin and
yes.
within their environment in order for them to thrive.
And whether it is in churches,
Yes.
just all the different spaces.
Yeah.
And so how do we have a commitment to safety as a priority? How do we have that commitment to safety in our family? How do we maintain the I would always say to my children every day, what are your highlights? What is your lull? And even like, oh, mom.
I love it. But
Wow.
at least you're asking them
But
the question.
by building that
That's-
culture
thank you.
of conversation,
Yeah.
we promote that space where
I love that.
safety becomes prioritized.
I love it. Well, I'd like to thank you again so much for being here. You have been a wealth of information, and we all need to go out there and seek the resources that are available to us. So we're going to put up your information where people can reach out to you. She is Melanie S. Baker and the founder of Project R.E.S.E.T.S. There is her phone number as well as her email address. And guys, please reach out to her, especially if you want to know more about her program. Thank you so much again, Melanie. I so appreciate you.
Thank
okay?
you, Alicia. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having
No
me.
problem. All right, so we're going to get real quick to the Dare to Be You. And it is dare to empower parents and advocate for the well-being of every child. When we equip parents with the tools, support, and knowledge they need, we lay the foundation for a brighter future. By standing up for children, especially those navigating difficult circumstances, we help shape a world where where they can thrive. Your voice, your actions, and your commitment can make all the difference in ensuring that every child has the opportunity to succeed. So take a stand today, because their future depends on it. And that's exactly what the lovely Melanie S. Baker has shared with us today. Empower our parents and advocate for our children. Make sure that we're standing up for them, but also listen to them and seek the resources and the tools necessary to be the voice that your children so desperately need. So I'd like to thank again Miss Melanie Baker for being here. I'd like to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Your Our Unity. You can catch us on Sunday now on Cablevision Channel 20 at 11 a.m. instead of 4 p.m. starting this Sunday. I want you guys to have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Please remember that I truly love you and that peace and love is in the palm of our hands. So let's go out there and be some love, give some love, and just share some love. We'll see you probably in 2 weeks here on Your Our Unity. But in the meantime, you have a wonderful evening and have a good night. Say good night, Melanie.
Good night. Thank you for having me. Good night.